Welcome to BigCountryPreps.com. I'm Evan Wren, and this is the Countdown to Two-A-Days series. Our daily look at an area football team, the key questions we'll be answering about that team on our August 20th preseason preview here at Big Country Preps. I'm with my partner, Dan Youngblood, via Zoom. And tonight, Dan, we are talking about one of the most storied programs in the Big Country, the Brownwood Lions.
Yeah, this is a Brownwood team that'll have some change at the top this year with Coach Gerald Brixey taking over for Sammy Burnett. Brixey was the longtime former Katy offensive coordinator, and some around the Big Country may remember him from his days as the Comanche head coach a long time ago, back when you and I were arriving around here.
A good,
Yeah, so
good stint there at Comanche.
he did had I remember one really good season he had, uh, yeah, they're going to have a new coach, like many of our teams in the area will this year, and obviously that's going to create some questions there. And we'll talk about some of the biggest questions this Brownwood team will face. But they do have some talent back. 16 of their 36 Letterman return, including 8 offensive starters. They're going to have to do some work on defense, where only 3 starters return. But yeah, should be an interesting season for Brownwood with Coach Brixey taking over, and it'll be a fun season to watch.
All right, before we start talking about the Brownwood Lions, we need to remind you folks to please hit the subscribe button at YouTube. It's free. And then after that, please click on that little bell and you'll get notifications from YouTube each and every time that we post a video there. All right, Dan, with that, it is time to start throwing some questions out about the Brownwood Lions. Go ahead and start.
I think the biggest question I have is just what kind of changes are we going to see? Obviously, this will be a with the head coaching change, that is. There are going to be some changes in philosophy. Obviously, coming from that Katy system, which has always been that eye based, really physical offensive attack. We're going to start seeing that at Brownwood, which will be interesting to see. And then obviously defensively, they're an odd stack team, so it's going to be interesting just to see what changes are brought there and kind of how quickly this program adapts to those changes being brought. Coach Brixey has a lot of experience. Like we said, he has head coaching experience from his time at Comanche, was in one of the most successful large school programs in the state at Katy. So he's going to bring a lot of confidence and a lot of swagger to it with him to Brownwood. And this is a program that, like you said, it's one of the most storied programs in the state, has had a lot of success, under Coach Burnett. So I'm interested to see kind of how that melds and what they look like in year one under Brixey.
All right, I guess my big question is just defensively. They only have 3 starters back, and how quickly can they put together a sound defense and work the kinks out, and can they do it before district starts? Because that's going to be the big question, the big key for them. Only 3 guys back, 3 regulars. They've got a good linebacker in Brenson Martin. He had 145 tackles last year. They got a good defensive back in Raven Prado. He's back. But really, just a ton of new faces. Some help from the JV coming up. How quickly can they piece it together? That's the question. Can they work the kinks out uh, before district starts? And let's not forget to mention Wyatt Wolf, who was a good safety. He's back also, had over 100 tackles last year. But that's it. Other than that, it's new faces.
Yeah, a lot of youngsters in that defense. That is a big question, and it's going to be interesting to see, like you said, how quickly they not only adapt to bigger roles, but also adapt to a new defense. So, my last question for Brownwood is on that offensive side, where things look pretty good, honestly, with eight starters back, a lot of guys who got a lot of playing time for him last year, a couple of big linemen, some quality skill guys, a couple of really talented tight ends. Which that's when you're talking about an eye-based offense, that's a good place to start, having some tight ends to work with and some linemen. My question, I guess, would be is what kind of progression are we going to see from Judson Colson, who played quarterback last year, threw for over 1,600 yards in a different system. Obviously, I'm interested to see kind of how he adapts to what they're doing and how quickly he adapts to it. I think that experience he gained last year is going to be really valuable for him. And I'm interested to see kind of how that translates to the new scheme and how quickly he can pick that up and if he can be a leader for that group. Because I think early in the season, especially, that offense may have to carry him a little bit while that defense finds its sea legs. So it's going to be an interesting season to watch for sure. But that is one area where they do have a little bit of experience and some leadership.
All right, we're going to be taking a look at Brownwood's schedule for 2025. But before we do that, we need to thank a few of our sponsors. Beginning with For the Love of the Game Broadcasting and our old friend Terry Slavens, owner of K-Lakes 93.5 FM out of Brackenridge, 97.7 FM KATX out of Eastland, Classic Country AM 1330 out of Graham, 94.7 FM KWKQ out of Graham, KROO 1430 AM out of Breck, and KWBY 98.5 FM out of Ranger. That is for the love of the game broadcasting. Also, Rob Durham, sales consultant at Bayer Chevrolet Buick Cadillac up in Breckenridge. If you're in the market for a new vehicle or a used vehicle, call Rob. He's one of the nicest guys you'll ever want to meet. Give him a shout at 254 559 2266. That's Rob Durham up at Bayer Chevrolet Buick Cadillac in Breckenridge. And finally, Cavalry Resources and Construction, located up in Breckenridge, serving the entire big country, offering custom standing seam roofing made on location and all commercial roofing applications. Give Kobe Walker a shout at 254 246 5546. That is Cavalry Resources and Construction in Breckenridge. All right. And with that, Dan, it's time to take a peek at Brownwood's schedule for 2025. We'll begin with the non-district portion. And to say that this schedule is tough, especially on the north or the non-district side, that's an understatement. This is a tough group of teams that they're playing. All right, they will open. Brownwood will open with a road date at Wiley on August the 29th. They'll play host to Wall a week later, and then they will travel to Glen Rose on September 12th. That's a toughie. Another toughie right after that, Waco La Vega on September the 19th. And then they will play host to China Spring, yet another toughie on the 26th. And they will finish the non-district portion with a game on a neutral site at Smithson Valley. They'll be playing Ingleside.
And they jump right into district the following week on October 10th with a big home game against a quality Lampasas team, and then have their open date on the 17th. Then they will go to Burnett on the 24th of October, host arch rival Stephenville on Halloween night, and then travel to Marble Falls to close out the regular season at November 7th. So, top to bottom, this is a really difficult schedule and should be a really provide a lot of challenges for this Brownwood squad.
Game of the year, I think it just depends on what their goals are. If they want to win the district championship, I think it's obvious what the game of the year is. But then that would be Stephenville, of course, on Halloween night. That's going to be at Brownwood over at Gordon Wood Stadium. But I'll tell you what, that game with Lampasas on October the 10th, that's kind of what you would look at as a setup game. If they beat Lampasas and then take care of business against Burnett, then guess what? Then Stephenville's the game of the year. That Lampasas game, that's a home date with Lampasas. That's going to be awfully dang important because if they fall there, you could be looking at a 3 seed, maybe a 4. It just depends on how things shake out. But that Lampasas game is big also.
Yeah, that was the game that I was actually going to point to as my game of the year for this Brownwood team is that home game against Lampasas for the reasons you mentioned. You win that game, it sets you up for probably an opportunity to play for the district championship on Halloween night. You lose that game, and then you're trying to fight, like you said, for a 3 or 4 seed, most likely, just with what Stephenville has been in recent years. Not to say that it's an impossibility for Brownwood to beat them, but that's going to be a really tough game, obviously. So, yeah, that Lampasas game there, and the tough thing about that game is you don't have the open date before it to get ready for it. The open date comes after that one. So if you win that game, that open date comes at a really good time. It gives you a chance to regroup and then really attack those final 3 games. But it's going to be interesting. I like the schedule for Brownwood.
Okay, with that, it's about time to wrap up this edition of the Countdown to Two-A-Days series, the Brownwood Lions. But before we do that, we want to remind you that on August 20th, that's the big day here at Big Country Preps. That's the day we release our annual preseason football preview, and it is the most comprehensive look at area football of any media source, and that's far and wide, either a media source here or even statewide for that matter. We have more information on Big Country football than anybody else. August 20th, don't forget to join us.
In the meantime, we appreciate you joining us for this episode of our Countdown to Two-A-Days series, and make sure you come back tomorrow and we take a look at the Stephenville Yellow Jackets here at BigCountryPreps.com.